It was part of a much larger landscape bustling with human activity. And here, on the nearby headland, an ongoing excavation has revealed so much more about this.
Beneath the quiet farmland of Angus, Scotland, lies a secret 6,000 years in the making. In July of 2025, a routine survey near Carnoustie hit something that shouldn't exist.
To more peculiar structures like this one, complete with unusual masonry features such as these prone orthostats lying on their edge.
Advanced ground-penetrating radar revealed massive symmetrical ghost shapes deep in the earth. These weren't natural rocks or modern pipes. They were the outlines of enormous wooden beams, arranged with a precision that feels almost modern.
Pivotal position right at the tip of Scotland with access to the east and west coast. I think it was very important then, and it is almost like turning the map of Britain on its head.
This discovery is a massive wake-up call. We've been taught that early Britons were primitive, scattered groups just struggling to survive. But this structure tells a different story. It predates Stonehenge by nearly 1,000 years. While that famous stone circle was still centuries away, a sophisticated community was already here, moving tons of oak to engineer the largest Neolithic building ever recorded in the British Isles. Measuring 35 meters long, this isn't just old wood. It's a monument to a lost civilization far more powerful than we ever dared to imagine. Engineering the impossible. As the archaeologists began to peel back the layers of Scottish peat and soil, the sheer scale of the project left them speechless. This wasn't a house, it was a cathedral of the ancient world. The structure measured roughly 35 meters long and 9 meters wide. To put that in perspective, imagine a building the size of a modern professional tennis court, entirely enclosed and built from massive, virgin oak. Each timber was specifically chosen from nearby forests, shaped with nothing but simple stone tools and placed with mathematical accuracy. Dr. Susan McKay, one of the leading experts on the site, described the moment the first beam emerged from the earth as a haunting experience. These timbers were perfectly preserved by the unique chemistry of the soil, showing the distinct tool marks left by builders 6 millennia ago. The posts were set at consistent depths and perfectly spaced, proving that these builders didn't just wing it, they had a blueprint. They understood load-bearing weights and structural integrity long before the invention of the wheel or written language. The sheer amount of manpower required to fell these massive oaks, transport them, and hoist them into place suggests a society that was highly organized and deeply motivated. It forces us to ask, what was so important that it required this much effort? The Feast of the Ancients. The clues to the hall's purpose were scattered across the floor in the form of thousands of fragments. Archaeologists didn't just find wood, they found the remnants of massive prehistoric celebrations. Thousands of animal bones were unearthed, mostly from cattle, sheep, and pigs. These weren't the leftovers of a small family dinner. These were the remains of gargantuan feasts, where entire communities likely gathered to share wealth and reinforce their social bonds. Picture the scene. The air inside the hall thick with the smell of roasting meat, the walls flickering with the light of multiple central hearths, and hundreds of people gathered under one roof. Alongside the bones, researchers found intricately decorated pottery shards. This wasn't basic cookware, these were high-status items, beautifully crafted and likely used for ceremonial purposes. The presence of grain remnants like barley and wheat confirms that these people were master farmers, capable of producing a surplus of food that could support these massive gatherings. The central hearths were spaced methodically down the center of the hall, acting as focal points for different groups or rituals. Entering this hall through the stone-paved entrances wasn't a casual act. It was an experience designed to inspire awe. This was the social and spiritual heart of the region, a place where politics, religion, and community merged into one. The Great Migration Mystery. One of the most controversial aspects of this discovery is the identity of the builders themselves. For a long time, there has been a heated debate among historians about how farming actually started in Britain. Did the local hunter-gatherers simply learn how to plant seeds, or were they replaced? Recent genetic evidence and discoveries, like the one at Carnoustie, suggest a much more dramatic, exposed truth. These builders weren't the original inhabitants of Scotland, they were part of a massive migration wave from continental Europe. Specifically areas we now know as France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. These first farmers arrived with a completely different culture, a new diet, and a different way of life. They brought the technology of the timber haul with them, and within a few generations, the old hunter-gatherer way of life almost completely vanished. This wasn't just a slow change. It was a cultural takeover. The Carnoustie Hall is a physical manifestation of this new dominant ideology. It was a statement of power and permanent ownership over the land. These people were connected to a vast network of similar cultures stretching across northern Europe, sharing ideas and building techniques that were light years ahead of the local populations. Timber versus stone. When we think of ancient Britain, we immediately think of stone. Stonehenge, Avebury, and the Ring of Brodgar dominate our imagination because stone lasts. But the Carnoustie discovery suggests that we have been looking at a lopsided version of history. The age of wood may have been just as impressive, if not more so, than the age of stone. Because timber eventually rots and disappears, we assume that earlier societies were less advanced. However, the precision found at this site proves that these people were master architects long before the first megalith was ever moved into place. There is a certain irony in the fact that this timber hall is nearly 1,000 years older than Stonehenge. It shows that the social structures required to build massive monuments were already in place in Scotland long before they reached the Salisbury Plain. The builders of Carnoustie were the true pioneers of monumental architecture. They established the tradition of communal labor in sacred space that would eventually lead to the stone circles we see today. If wood were as durable as granite, the Scottish countryside might look like a forest of massive ancient halls, completely changing our visual understanding of the Neolithic era, the ritual inferno. But here is where the story takes a dark and mysterious turn. As archaeologists analyzed the remains of these halls across Europe and Scotland, they noticed a recurring, shocking pattern. Many of these massive structures didn't just fall down or rot away. They were burned to the ground. And the evidence suggests it wasn't an accident. These fires were so hot and so complete that they appear to have been deliberate acts of destruction. Why would a community spend months or even years building their most important structure just to set it on fire? Some theorists believe this was a final ritual, a way of killing the building once its purpose was served or after a prominent leader died. Others suggest it was a way to cleanse the site before moving on to a new area. Whatever the reason, the sight of a 35-meter oak hall engulfed in flames would have been a terrifying and awe-inspiring spectacle, visible for miles in every direction. It suggests a belief system where the act of destruction was just as sacred as the act of creation. The abandonment of the Carnoustie site wasn't a tragedy, it was a choice, a final ceremony that signaled the end of an era before the hall was swallowed by the earth for 6,000 years. The hidden network. The most exciting part of the Carnoustie discovery is that it is likely just the beginning. For centuries, we were blind to these sites, but technology has finally revealed the truth. Tools like LiDAR, laser scanning from the air, are currently stripping away the vegetation and topsoil of Scotland to show what lies beneath. What we are finding is a massive hidden network of Neolithic activity. In places like Aberdeen and the Scottish borders, scans are showing outlines of enclosures and earthworks that no one knew existed. It turns out that Scotland isn't just a land of rolling hills. It's a giant graveyard of lost civilizations. The Carnoustie Hall wasn't an isolated anomaly. It was likely part of a chain of communal centers that allowed these early farmers to communicate and trade across vast distances. We are standing on the edge of a new golden age of archaeology where the map of ancient Britain is being redrawn every single day. There are likely hundreds of these halls still hidden under farmland, waiting for the right moment to be discovered. The more we look, the more we realize that the primitive past was actually a bustling, interconnected world of high-stakes politics and massive construction. The unanswered questions. As the sun sets over the fields of Angus, the mystery of the timber hall continues to deepen. Every piece of pottery and every charred oak post tells a story, but they also raise questions that challenge the very foundation of our history. How did these people organize themselves so effectively without a central government? What did they talk about as they sat around those central fires 6,000 years ago? And most importantly, what else are we missing? The discovery at Carnoustie reminds us that history isn't a closed book, it's a living, breathing puzzle. We are only now developing the eyes to see what has been right in front of us all along. These ancient builders didn't leave us a written record, but they left us a message in the soil. They were here, they were powerful, and they were far more like us than we ever cared to admit. As we continue to dig, we aren't just finding old wood, we are finding the very roots of our own society hidden silently beneath our feet. If you want to dive deeper into the shadows of our past and stay updated on the finds that are rewriting the history books, make sure to subscribe to Mystery's Uncovered Files. We are on a mission to bring the truth to light, one discovery at a time. What do you think was the true purpose of the ritual burning? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you in the next file.